Hello and welcome to The View from 22. My name is Lisa and I am joined today by my colleague Svitlana Morenets, who joins us from Ukraine, where she is reporting for us for the next few weeks. Today we are discussing the attack on the Kerch bridge, which occurred this morning in the early hours and is thought to have been the result of a drone attack. As a result of the attack this morning, a section of the road bridge has been damaged reportedly, although the railway line remains intact. Svitlana joins me now from Kyiv. What's the view on the attack on the Kerch bridge from Ukraine?
First, Ukrainian government never recognizes any attack on Crimea. They always say we don't know who made it, but it's pretty obvious that Russia didn't destroy their bridge. Ukrainian media, citing their sources, have reported that the attack on the bridge was made by a special operation. It was a special operation by the security service of Ukraine, Ukrainian intelligence, and the naval forces. And allegedly the bridge was attacked using surface drones. And it's important to remember that last year Zelensky announced a project to create a fleet of marine drones in Ukraine, and then he said it was to protect the grain deal and Ukraine's borders. But as we could see yesterday, these drones were used to attack the Sevastopol, the Russian fleet in Sevastopol, and also last night the Kerch bridge. So that fundraising was really successful. Those drones, they're very expensive, and Ukraine doesn't have much of them. Only they were raising money to buy 100 of them, because one costs about 200,000 pounds. And Ukrainians were donating to buy those drones, people from abroad, and finally we could see them in work.
Does that mean that the drones that were used definitely did come from a stock supplied by the Ukrainian military or the Ukrainian or from the Ukrainian Secret Service?
All the sources say that it was like that. I mean, we will know only when the war ends and we will find out all the secrets. But yesterday in social media there was a footage of a damaged drone in the sea, and it was identified as a Ukrainian surface drone that was used to attack Russian Black Sea fleet. So this time about the attack on Kerch bridge, it could be the same. And also the blast happened below the span, possibly at one of the piers, and so it was not made from the above.
So why do you think it's so rare for Ukraine to claim responsibility for incidents such as this?
To be honest, I don't know why they don't recognize that they did it. Probably they wait to see for the reaction of our allies, what they say about that, but I'm sure that these attacks are discussed before they actually happen with Ukrainian allies, because it's important that we don't cross those lines that they talk about. But Ukrainian government has been repeating constantly that they're going to use Ukrainian weapons to strike Russia, for example, or to liberate Crimea, but they're not going to use Western weapons. But it wasn't quite true also, because they were using Storm Shadow missiles. So I don't know why they do it.
Thank you. And are you able to tell us a little bit about what is so important about this bridge? Why is it that it's so significant for both Ukraine and for Russia?
For Ukraine, to damage the bridge is only not like a military point, but also a political and psychological, to show Russia that they are capable of doing it, and also to give some pressure for Russian population in Crimea, because right now they can flee the peninsula only on ferry, but when the weather is windy, the ferries don't go. So the only options is through the occupied mainland, and it's very dangerous because there is ongoing fighting. And in Ukraine there are a lot of talks that when the question comes to the liberation of Crimea, that Ukrainian army will just destroy the Kerch bridge and be waiting in the entrance of Crimea, because Russian army will have nowhere to go.
And so that brings me on to my next question as well, which is, what sort of significance do you think the attack on the Kerch bridge last night has on the Ukrainian counteroffensive? Do you think that this will have a particular impact on how the Ukrainian military is then able to conduct the counteroffensive?
Of course, it won't help Ukrainian army to cross 250 kilometers of minefields, but it will stop for some time the trucks with weapons that were used to bring more weapons to the front line. But also the railway bridge wasn't destroyed, and it is important because many weapons, especially heavy weapons like tanks, they are transported by the railway mostly. That's why there won't be a big difference, and the bridge will likely be repaired in 1 month. So the day when they destroy it completely, when there will be no railway bridge, no like pedestrian bridge for the cars, then it will be a significant. But right now, no. They need it, or more drones or missiles, a lot of missiles to damage it, because it's quite a big structure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what do you think then this says about the state of Russian defences sort of around Crimea, particularly around the Kerch bridge? Is it a case then that the Ukrainian military is getting through very weak Russian defences, or that the Russian defences are strong and Ukraine needs to do more to penetrate those defences?
Kremlin has been claiming that the Kerch Bridge is one of the most protected places in Russia, and it doesn't seem to look like it is true. So I wouldn't say it is a target, because there are Russian air defenses in that area in Crimea, and every day they report about shooting down the drones and the missiles. We don't know how much of that is true, how much they really shot down, or they were, at least if there were these attacks, we don't know that we can confirm that information. And they were using the training with this fog around the bridge, so Ukrainians couldn't see where to shoot, but we see the results that the bridge is quite reachable for Ukrainian army. It's just a question of sources that Ukrainian army has, because if even to say about that project that Zelensky was talking about 100 naval drones, it is still so few, so Ukrainians have to choose when is the best time to strike the bridge.
Mm-hmm. And so do you think it was worth it, Ukraine attempting to strike the bridge now? I mean, the casualties from the bridge seem to have been a civilian couple with their daughter. The parents, it has been reported, have been killed, and the daughter's in hospital.
Of course, the bridge is a military target because it was illegally built after Crimea was annexed. And if Ukraine was waiting that there were no civilians on the bridge at the moment, they would never shut it, because there are all the time civilians. And unfortunately, this war cannot be won without those prices that we have to pay. And of course, it's sad that civilians have to suffer, but there is no other way to win the war. And as we could see, Ukrainian tactics during the full-scale invasion, that they try to do all the best, not to kill civilians, just to fight with the army. But you never know.
You're currently in Ukraine and reporting from Ukraine for the next several weeks. I was just wondering, how does it feel to be back home, and what has changed about Kyiv since you were last there several months ago now?
Of course, I'm so happy to be back home, and for me it's the best place in the world, like for every Ukrainian. A lot of things have changed. For me, the most significant difference is the prices, how much they inflated, like they tripled in the supermarket, by grocery stores. And unfortunately, it's not the case for the salaries. And so it's very difficult for people who earn less, especially for those who are older and getting pensions, and they're very low in Ukraine. So I'm wondering how they are surviving here, Also, air raids and the explosions, if there are drone attacks or missile attacks. I mean, people got used to it, and it's unfortunate because people shouldn't get used to live in a war state. But we have what we have. And also I see a lot of military on the streets, a lot of patriotic advertisement to join the army. And in the city center, on the Maidan Square, there are a lot of little flags. They stay in the ground with the names of the fallen soldiers. It's like now a small ritual here in Ukraine. If you lost a loved one in the war, you write their name and put a little flag, and now the square is full of those little flags. There are like thousands of them, and it's really very sad.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be very moving to see. But
still, Kyiv is like the most protected place in Ukraine because here is our government and our intelligence, everyone. And it feels like you can see parties in the evenings and people try to keep living their lives. But the farther you go to the east, the less you see of that, and you see more the war impacts on the life of Ukrainians. I will tell you more when I go there.
Thank you so much, Svitlana. And thank you so much to all of you for watching. You can sign up to Svitlana's newsletter for free at spectator.co.uk/Ukraine.